Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are returning visitors, you know that this is the time when I use a tarot spread with oracle cards to help us examine ideas and topics related to living an intentional life. And this spread this week, I think, holds some very important information. Let me start off with a question. Have you ever thought that you would have to change in order to live the life that you've intended for yourself? Have you thought that you had to become someone different in order to love the person you want to love, or do the work you want to do, or have the experiences you want to have, or create the things that you are truly passionate about? If you've thought that you would have to change, in fact, you are probably right. But what does that mean? We all have to become the person who experiences those things, who has relationships with those people. That's part of living an intentional life. It's part of our growth and evolution, becoming more. Because if we were the person who already was ready for that job or that relationship or that experience or to create that piece of art, then we would already be doing it. However, because we're talking about the life we have intended, the basis of that is we are not living that life yet. We're moving in the direction of it. And part of moving into the direction of that is our transformation. It's becoming the person who does those things, who has those things, who experiences those things. On the other hand, if you think that you have to change and become like, for example, you have to do the kinds of things like that CEO. You have to think the kinds of thoughts and have the experiences that that artist has had. If you think that you have to play your game the way that athlete plays their game, if you think you have to completely make yourself over to love the person that you want to love, that's where we have come to the point where we have some confusion. And this week's spread speaks directly to that. So, if you're interested in diving into that topic, which I believe is a very deep, poignant, and important topic for people who are interested in living an intentional life, then stay tuned. Yeah, I'm going to show you the spread as usual, and then we'll dive into it bit by bit. And so, as usual, let me show you the full spread right now. This is truly a beautiful spread, isn't it? The art, the way the art works with each other in combination, the dialogue it has between each card is stunning. It's amazing. It's beautiful. What do we have? We have a compendium of Witches Oracle. We have the Witches Wisdom Tarot and the Green Witch Tarot, and as usual, inquiry cards. And if you're interested in who created these decks, there will be, as usual, information at the end of the video. Maybe the end is that way. At the end of the video, to tell you who made these decks. And again, as usual, below the video, there will be links. So if you want to purchase one or all of these decks, you can go there. Just a reminder, I don't get any money from those purchases that you make through those links. I'm just giving you that as information to help you on your search. Now, friends, you saw the spread, this gorgeous, gorgeous spread. Let's take a look at the central this week it's 4 cards, the central 4 cards, the oracle cards, which give us the central message for this spread. If you've seen my previous video with these cards, with this layout, then you know that these 4 cards all are from the same deck and they interact with each other in a particular way. Yeah? The central card is a witch. The 3 cards around with the very, very white background are the witch's tools. And so they interact together to give one central message for this spread. And the central card, the witch, this week is the wild rider. And you see the witch up on a horse out in the middle of perhaps the steppes, and the witch has a large bird of prey on their arm. So the wild rider. Each week, before I lay the spread, the question that I ask is, how can we live more intentionally in this coming week? And these spreads are always the answer to that question. How can we live more intentionally? And the first card is the first primary answer, and that answer is the wild rider. So the answer is not to get on a horse and go riding madly into the sunset. No. However, the wild rider, this witch teaches us to become our fully authentic self. This witch teaches us to live without apology, to break free from our limitations. This witch is calling us to live our most authentic lives. Which is why, when I asked that question, do you think you have to become like someone else? No, we don't need to become like that CEO, or that artist, or that athlete, or that musician. We do have to become ourselves, most fully, most authentically ourselves, stripped of the layers of persona that have built up over time, the layers that we have put there to protect ourselves from experiences that we've had in the world. Have you ever been bullied? Have you ever been picked on? Have you ever been criticized? I'm sure you have. Most everyone who is alive in this world has had experiences like that. And when we are bullied, I remember many times, in fact, my entire childhood is a series of bullied, but every time we experience one of those things, being bullied, being criticized, being seen as less, we do something to fix ourselves. And the thing we often do is we create a barrier. Now, we hide our imperfect selves behind a persona that we believe will be more acceptable. I know I've tried doing that. I've lived much of my life from behind the mask of a persona to appear more acceptable to other people. And I was successful. I am successful. In fact, I'll admit it. There are still aspects of persona that are fully functioning, and I use to be able to function more easily in society. Do you notice that you have masks that you wear when interacting with people? Do you notice that those masks change? Have you ever seen the famous Chinese artist, the man with 1,000 faces, who can change their mask without anybody ever seeing what's happening? Yeah? We do that. Do you know that you do that? We change our mask depending on the situation. The person that you are in front of perhaps your mother is not the same person that you are in front of your best friend in a bar, or in front of another best friend at a concert, like a classical music concert, for example, or perhaps in front of your boss, or in front of your employee, or in front of your fellow student. We have different masks that we use, and they help us to, again, function in society. And to an extent, those masks, those personae, are very useful. And I'm not saying that we have to stop ourselves from interacting with people through the filter of a persona. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm not saying you have to get rid of your persona, nor that you must keep them. The persona is not really the problem as such. It's our identification with that persona. If we have a persona and we use it like a tool, but we are able to set it aside, then we're fine. If we can clear out space in our lives to live our most authentic selves, we are even more fine. And if we can find more space in our lives to live our most authentic selves, and to allow ourselves the time, the ability, the freedom to really discover who that authentic self is. We may have our idea of our authentic self, our understanding of our authentic self will evolve over time. That will change, and we need to allow ourselves to experience that change. Because as we have experiences, we naturally grow and evolve. And that growth and evolution is coming in the area, in that authentic self space. So we want to allow our authentic selves to grow, to develop. And we want to allow ourselves the luxury of discovering, continuing to discover who that authentic self is, what that authentic self wants, how that authentic self wants to express themselves. Whether that self is artist or not, whether that self matches your physical sex organs or not, whether it does and doesn't, whether that authentic self is strong and powerful or soft and flows like water. Whatever that authentic self is, however that authentic self expresses itself, themselves, that's what we want to do, to live an intentional life, to be able to live from that. Use the tools when they become necessary or helpful, but knowing that we can allow ourselves to live our authentic selves in any situation we want. That's living an intentional life. And discovering that authentic self is how we change and become the people who have the experiences we want to have. Love the people we want to love. And so, what is this witch's tool? What are these witches, singular plural, what are this witch's tools? The first tool on the left. Oh, let me say one more thing about the witch. Yeah, you notice that this witch is on their horse with a bird of prey. So why is that important? We want to boldly express who we were born to be. This authentic self is who we were born to be. We want to live radically for the purpose of our own self-actualization. So, that horse is the power to move wherever we want to move. That bird of prey is the one with the eyes to see from long distances what we are after, where we can go, to fly free. All of those qualities are qualities of our authentic self. So, again, our authentic self is that which, on that horse, with that bird of prey, able to see far, long distances, able to move freely where they want. Being who they were born to be. And your expression will not look the same as this witch, certainly. However, those qualities are what we want to discover within ourselves. Now, again, what is the first tool? The first tool is the staff. The staff is a tool of possibilities. Think of it as a staff of magic, like Gandalf's staff in the Wizard of Oz, in The Lord of the Rings. Think of it as the staff of adventure, that tool that helps us move along on our journey. Think of it as a staff of far seeing. Remember that bird of prey, being able to see far into the distance. Think of it as the staff of expansion. Because as we move, we expand our realm of experience. So, as we live our most authentic lives, we carry our staff of power, our staff of expansion, our staff of limitless possibilities from which we are able to choose. Our staff of adventure, not being afraid of going into the unknown. Now, the wild rider goes where they have never been before. They're not always going from their house to work and back to the house and back to work. The wild rider is out exploring. And that's what our authentic selves came here to do. We came here as spirits in these beautiful, beautiful bodies of ours to have adventures, to explore this physical realm with our senses, with our emotions and our minds, with our spirits. So we carry our staff with us as we ride on our trusted steed. The second card, the one at the bottom, is the cornucopia. This is the tool that reminds us of the abundance that we have. But not only the abundance that we have, the abundance that we are. Do you know how abundant you are and the abundance that you are? Can you understand what that means? You are abundant. Yeah? You have an amazing amount of stuff, of experiences, of people to interact with. And as long as you're not, or I'm not, or we're not, focusing on the things that we believe we do not have in our lives, we can notice the things that we do have and appreciate them and realize our abundance. However, you are abundance. You're abundant and you are abundance. That authentic self is not simple. That authentic self is not a small, insignificant thing. Your authentic self, my authentic self, our authentic selves are expansive, diverse, complex, wondrously beautiful, awesome beings. We are infinite beings having a human experience, and our authentic self is that infinity. It is abundance. The cornucopia also teaches us of our worthiness. When we are living in our authentic self, from our authentic selves, we know we are worthy. We know we are worthy of everything and every one that we want to experience, that we have intended for ourselves. We know we are worthy. It's the experiences which have, unfortunately, had some bad effect, of some negative effect, of teaching us that we are unworthy. But that feeling of unworthiness is a lie. It is false. It is not our authentic self. Our authentic selves teach us our worthiness. Our authentic selves know our worthiness because we are non-physical spirits having these physical human experiences. And what could be more worthy than our infinite, eternal, non-dying selves? Claiming that we are unworthy is tantamount to claiming that the creating mind, whatever you want to call that, God, Allah, Brahman, Great Mother, Divine Mother, Gaia, Great Spirit, Universal Consciousness, whatever you want to name that thing, because names are not important, whatever you want to name that thing, that being, claiming that you are unworthy is tantamount to claiming that being as being unworthy. And that is clearly false. You are absolutely worthy. Do you know that? Can you feel that? Can you feel that radiating from your authenticity? And sure, we get those reminders that there are parts of our belief system that tell us falsely that we are unworthy. There are habitual thoughts which make us feel like we are unworthy. There are experiences where we felt like we have failed, and we have learned from those experiences that we are not worthy, and those are all a lie. You, my friend, are the most worthy being there is in this universe. And I know this because I know that I am the most worthy being in this universe. And those two thoughts are not mutually exclusive. When it comes to the non-physical, to our authentic selves, we are each the most, because we are each infinite. And the third thing is what? The third thing is the pomegranate. And the pomegranate. In tarot, often the pomegranate is thought of as sexuality, sensuality, and sure, it's all of those things. But here in this set of cards, the pomegranate is, rather than the sensuality, but the senses. Living passions. Yeah, living the passion of our authentic self. Exploring the world with our senses. Yeah, smelling the smells, tasting the tastes, feeling the textures, seeing the colors and shapes and lights, hearing the sounds everywhere, from the ocean to the birds, to the traffic on the streets, to the jackhammer digging away at the pavement. All of those diverse sounds. Yeah, our sensual experience, in the sense of our senses experiencing this physical universe, is part of the wild rider's life. We live with all of this stuff, and we came here to live with all of this stuff and to experience it all. And in the midst of all of this wonderful stuff, this stuff that we sense with all of our senses, our third eye as well, we live our passions from our authentic selves. And it's when we live our passions from our authenticity that we know that we are flowing with the powerful, powerful force of intention. Because when we're living authentically, we are open. And we have full access to the powerful flow of intention. Does that make sense to you? Do you live authentically? Do you realize when you're not living authentically? There are few people, very few people on this earth who can claim to live authentically 24 hours, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, ad infinitum. So we all shut down from time to time. We have experiences that knock us off our horse. However, are you able to notice when you are knocked off of your horse, and also when you are back on and living your free life of authenticity? If you can notice those differences, and you can find ways to get yourself back up on your horse when you want to, then you know you're living your intentional life as best you can. And frankly, even if you can't get up on your horse when you want to, then you're still living your intentional life the best you can. But we can all do better. We can all live more open lives, accessing intention more powerfully. And that's what we want to move towards. And moving towards that is living an authentic life. Friends, we have 4 questions to look at. Let's look at the first question. Before we get into these questions, let me ask you to keep an eye out for one thing. I'd like you to notice how many major arcana cards there are in this spread. Look for them. The number of major arcana cards in this spread is impressive and speaks to the importance of the message within this spread, I believe. So keep an eye out for those. And remember that the 2 cards answering each question are one from the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, one from the Green Witch Tarot. And the Witch's Wisdom Tarot is a very interesting and very different deck. It has reorganized or renumbered the major arcana, going in an opposite direction. And as the cards are going in an opposite direction, the meanings have shifted. I've also noticed that the minor arcana cards, the cups, the wands, the swords, the discs, the pentacles, though they are not renumbered, the meanings have also shifted within the minor arcana. So the Witch's Wisdom Tarot is a very unique tarot, and it expresses very unique ideas. So let's keep that in mind. The first question is, how am I willing to change? And the answer to this question was honestly a little bit shocking, at least surprising to me. The first answer to this, you see, is the Witch of Earth. Now, the Witch of Earth in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck would typically be the Knight of Pentacles. Now, Pentacles being an earth suit, and the witches in this deck being in the spot that the knight would normally occupy. The witch is the knight of this deck. The witch is the one who goes out and does the doing, does the making. So I can see how that equates with the knight. So the Knight of Pentacles, the Witch of Earth, is different in this deck. You can see the witch is wearing a bear skin, holding a staff of power. There's a bag of perhaps herbs or other tools for making. The witch is standing between 2 stones. Two stones. Perhaps part of a circle, we don't know. And this witch teaches us courage in the face of challenge, for one. And that kind of lines up with the Knight of Pentacles as well. Courage in the face of challenge. So, what am I willing to change? I'm willing to become more courageous, to live my authentic self, to live the life of my authentic self, to discover my authentic self. The challenge can also be internal. Now, we experience challenge when we try to find our authenticity because there are challenging voices within our heads saying, no, you can't do that. You're not good enough for that. You haven't done that before. You always make mistakes when you do that. You always fail when you do that. All of those voices are internal challenges, and we want to have the courage to face those challenges as we discover our authentic selves. The witch of earth is the humble witch, the compassionate witch. And our authentic selves are all of that. We are innately compassionate and humble. Humble in the positive sense, not humble in the sense of the beaten down servant of a cruel master. Not humble in the sense of, oh, no, don't hit me kind of humble. Not, I'll be good, don't punish me kind of humble. The humility of recognizing that everyone is equal with me. The humility of recognizing that not only people, animals are equal with me. Trees are equal with me. All of life is one system of equality. Justice. That's true humility. To recognize the divine spirit in a tree. To recognize the divine spirit in a cow. To recognize the divine spirit in an ant or a swarm of ants coming to invade your home. There is a divine presence within each of those ants. And that is a kind of humility. That's the kind of humility that this card is trying to teach us. The humility of the witch of earth. Not being humble less than, but humble in the presence of equality and majesty. She's also the witch. This witch is also the witch to serve something greater than self. So how do we have both? We have equality and then something greater than self. Well, greater yet equal, let's say. For example, if I have the desire to serve a particular community of fellow humans, one could say that that community is greater than me, while each individual is equal with me. The community is greater. It's larger in a way. However, that greatness of community is not put in balance with the less greatness of any individual either. There's that balance of being able to serve something that that appears to be greater, and yet know our individual worthiness among that. So, the witch of earth is here to serve an ideal, a purpose, a passion greater than themselves. The witch of earth is the witch of earth healing as well. So, as we serve, we also heal. And yes, the environment is part of that. The most obvious thought is the environment. Yeah, we are here to heal the environment. And that environment is the trees, the ocean, the air, all of that. But the environment is also our social environment. We're here to heal our social environment, be it in our neighborhoods, our states, our countries, our globe, perhaps even intergalactically at some point. But right now, up to our globe at least, we're here to bring healing to all of that. Without feeling burdened that if I don't heal the entire world by tomorrow, that I am unworthy, I am not fulfilling my purpose. I'm not trying to lay that burden at your doorstep, nor am I trying to carry that burden myself. But that is what we are here to do our part in healing all of that. Especially in the areas in which we have the most passion, because your area of passion is certainly different from my area of passion, and that is a blessing. If we all had only one area of passion, perhaps we'd have one really amazing part of the earth and the rest of it would fall to pieces in darkness and despair and disillusion. But fortunately, we all have our own individual areas of passion for healing. Yours might be one community, mine might be the ocean. That person over there might be totally crazy for healing the air and the atmosphere, and not have such a great interest in the oceans, but that's okay because somebody else has a passion for healing the oceans. So we live our lives authentically. Find our authentic passion, and within that passion, we are willing to change and do the healing that we are called to do. So, what am I willing to change? The first thing is finding our courage to face the challenges internally and externally, and be compassionate, be humble. In our infinite selves, holding our humility, knowing that every other being is also an infinite self. And then do the work of healing. And the next card is so appropriately the Standing Stone in the Green Witch Tarot, which is the Justice card in the standard Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And here you see a standing stone, which was traditionally used as a place for people to come air grievances and find justice. So this is the Justice card for this deck. Justice, truth, cause and effect. Everything we do, we realize has an effect. Everything we experience has an effect. Equilibrium and equity. So what could be a more perfect pair to the Witch of Earth than all of these ideas of justice, social justice, environmental justice, personal justice, truth, discovering our truth, our authentic selves, and finding equilibrium. Because if we're riding our horse out into the wild steppes and we don't have equilibrium, we're going to fall more easily. And even if we do have our equilibrium, things will sometimes knock us off. That's okay. We learn from those. We can become stronger from those experiences. However, we want to have our equilibrium. As we do all of those things, as we face with things with courage, internally and externally, as we work to do the healing, as we have compassion, we want equilibrium to express compassionately. And that's what we are willing to change. We are willing to change into, to become. We're willing to become the just Witch of Earth. Which is really what our authentic self is it not? Let's take a look at that second question. The second question is, what can I give? And we've already been talking a lot about what we can give. Yeah? Healing, compassion, justice. Here we have two different answers to this question. One is the Sun card. And do you notice the bird? Yeah? The bird, that echo from the wild rider card, the bird of prey, shows up again. And the wheel of the year card. And there's another bird up here too. Another free flying bird with eyes that can see very far distances. So what can I give? The first answer is the sun. What is the sun? In this deck, the sun is seeing what is hidden within. It's the sun which shines its light into the darkness, allowing us to see what is within ourselves and within the dark spaces in our environment. Seeing what is in the other and also seeing what is within ourselves. It's the card of vulnerability in this deck. And as we are our authentic selves, we are vulnerable. We're not barricading ourselves or protecting ourselves because we know that the more authentically we can live, not only the more powerful we are, but the fewer attackers we draw upon ourselves. The fewer attackers. And when the attacker comes, if the attacker comes, we're prepared to do something about it. We're prepared to and have the courage to face that attacker because we are our authentic selves. It's the card of acceptance and love and forgiving self. To be authentic, we have to accept who we are. Which is why we don't want to change into being the CEO or that actor or that athlete. We want to become ourselves more fully, more authentically. And to do that, first we need to accept. Not accept like, okay, I'll accept this. If this is what my authentic self is going to be, okay, there's no other choice. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what anybody is saying. But to fully accept all of the complexities of what our authentic self is. Maybe our authentic self is interested in doing art when we think everybody else thinks that we should be interested in business. And accepting that art as being us and our authentic passion and our authentic path. Acceptance of who we are. Love of who we are. Not only love of when we are successful, not only love of when we acknowledge that we are the best. And there's a tendency, I think, these days to think that we have to go around saying that I am the best, you are the best, you are always perfect, I am always perfect, and therefore we love ourselves. That's not exactly it. That isn't it. There are times when we make mistakes. There are times when we do things that are not helpful. There are times when we hurt people. No matter how loving and compassionate we think we are, there are times when we are going to hurt people. And there are times when we are not going to be able to live up to the expectations or the hopes that we have of ourselves. Can you acknowledge that there are times when you do that? The trick is to be able to love yourself through that, in that, around that, in that. I think I said in twice. But to love yourself in that mistake, in that causing of suffering. Because it's when we love ourselves in the midst of our causing of harm, of suffering, and we are able to acknowledge that I have caused suffering, I have caused harm. Then we know that we truly love ourselves. And it's from that loving attitude that we are able to grow, change, evolve. It's being able to express when you have been hurt, but also realizing that the person that has hurt you is also hurt, is also wounded. Loving the darkness in the other person is also part of this Sun card. Can you do that? It's very difficult. We haven't been taught to do that. We've been taught to punish the perpetrators. And our authentic self knows deeply that the bully would not bully us if the bully were healthy and happy and loved and loving. That bully is in pain. That racist is in pain. Can we love that person, dislike their actions, want to change their actions, want to help them realize there are ways that we can perhaps help them to realize, but we also recognize that shouting at them is not one of them. Now, shouting at a racist is not going to change their minds. Let's all acknowledge that. You're a racist. You're doing something bad. No, that's wrong. Is not going to change anybody. It's not an act of love nor an act of healing. There are other ways to do that, and that's something else and really not my area of expertise. So there are ways to do that in a loving way. That much I know. And that's the Sun card. To accept, love, and forgive self and other. And we forgive in order not to let them off the hook so much as to heal ourselves. The more we forgive, the healthier we are. The more we forgive, the more we drain the poison of anger and hate and frustration and despair out of our bloodstreams. So forgiveness is a healing act for ourselves. The Sun card is a card of courage, the courage to share what we are afraid of letting other people see. Again, living authentically. This Sun card is totally about living authentic lives. Of healing by example. The more I heal myself, the more I'm able to give an example for those around me and influence them towards their own healing. I can't heal the racist, but perhaps my healing myself of my racism as much as I possibly can be an example. It's subtle, but it's certainly more effective than shouting. And self-awareness. The Sun card is the card of self-awareness, and we need self-awareness. We want self-awareness to be able to discover who our authentic selves are. Who our authentic selves are. And so paired up with this Sun card, this beautiful, beautiful Sun card, with the bird flying over their head and holding beautiful things from nature, this Sun card. We have the Wheel of the Year, which in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck would be the Wheel of Fortune. Now, a card of good luck, of karma, life cycles, the year as it turns through the seasons, a turning point. But it's also destiny. It's also serendipity. My mouth's not working today. It's also serendipity. So, how does that work with the Sun? I think as we become more perceptive, as we see into the dark, as we have greater self-awareness, we realize that there are going to be cycles. There will be times when I am more authentically myself and less authentically myself. There are times when I'm more able to heal, and there are times when I'm actually going to possibly cause harm, even though I don't want to, I don't intend to. There are times when I'm probably going to cause harm. And I am ready to acknowledge, accept responsibility, and apologize for and work towards healing. the harm that I cause in the world. Because there is no one who does not cause harm. Every ant you step on, intentionally or not, is causing harm. Every microbe that I wipe out with an antibiotic is causing some harm in some way. Whether it's in my body or as those antibiotics are expelled from my body, they go into the environment and collectively they can do damage to the environment as well. I'm causing some harm. And I'm willing to accept that. And I'm willing to embrace that, not in the sense of embracing a love. Well, maybe it is in the sense of embracing a lover. Embracing a lover that I want to heal. And so there are times when I'm going to do harm, and there are times when I'm going to do the healing. And that is part of the wheel, I believe. Those cycles of life experience, of action, of emotion, of thought. Moving in a spiral through time. So what can I give? How does that relate to this question? What can I give? I can give the results of all of that. All of the stuff that I discover, all of the love that I have for myself and I'm willing to share with the beings I coexist with, I co-create with. I'm willing to share all of that. That's an act of giving. And realizing there are times when I can give more and times when I'm not able to give as much. And that's okay too. Let's look at the third question. The third question is, what inspires me? So I'm willing to change. I want to give. And to be able to give, it helps if I'm inspired. Yeah? The more inspired we are, the more we want to give. The more we want to create and share. So inspiration is wonderful. It's that wands card of the tarot deck. That inspiration and to passion. And the two answers to this are also very interesting. One is called Healing from the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, and the other is the Oak King from the Green Witch Tarot. Now, the Healing card in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck is Temperance. Yeah, Temperance, the angel with the two cups, water pouring between them. You've seen it. I'm sure you remember it. Here, instead, what do we see? We see a sky view. And around that sky view, I don't know if you noticed it, around what looks like trees, a circle of trees, as we look up at the sky, there are stars, but there are also other shadow figures, which are in the book described as our ancestors, our spirit guides, here to teach us temperance, here to teach us what? Acknowledging our wounds is the first step. We are all wounded. And hopefully we are ready to become wounded healers. And those wounds are our jewels. They are our treasures. Why? Because it's those wounds that help us to understand the wounds of the other. If we had never had any wounds in our lives, we would not be able to heal the other. We wouldn't have the compassion that we want to have for the other, the empathy. Our wounds are our jewels. They have helped us to grow, to evolve, and help us now to be the healing beings that we are called to be when we live our authentic lives. It's our wounds, acknowledging them and healing from them. That is the next step. First, we look at the wound. And there are times when we look at the wound, and we look at the wound, and we take the wound out, and we share the wound, and we show the wound, and we become the wound. Our wound becomes sometimes our badge of honor. I am this victim. And that's not what this card is teaching us. This card is teaching us to, yes, acknowledge the wound. Investigate the wound. understand the wound, and then heal the wound. And complete healing may never happen while we're in these bodies. We can acknowledge that. There are some wounds that never completely heal. However, we don't have to identify with those wounds. I am the one who lost this person. Doesn't necessarily have to define me. Yes, I had that experience. Yes, it hurt deeply. Yes, that I have that pain with me, inside of me. It is part of me and my experience, my truth. However, it is not me. I am the one who experienced it. That's a very important distinction. And part of being able to make that distinction is that healing. The more we heal our wounds, the more we're able to separate from them and recognize them as experiences, not as ourselves. It's the card of non-action and rehabilitation. Non-action doesn't mean not doing. We came into this world to experience it, to do things, to create things. It's not that kind of non-action. It's the non-action of allowing things to happen. Because as we move with the powerful force of intention, we know that we are not actually running after, chasing after the life that we want to live. We are allowing ourselves to move towards it. As we do the tasks of our daily life, as we wash the dishes, as we turn in our tax information to the IRS or whatever your tax board or bureau is, as we live our daily lives, as we do the creation that we want to do, that kind of doing is not what we're talking about. It's the chasing after. It's the making things happen. It's that kind of doing. We allow ourselves the non-doing. We sit in front of the tax form, and instead of forcing it to happen, we allow the tax form to be filled out through our bodies. We allow the filling in of the tax form to happen. And those are two very different experiences. Those are two very different experiences. Our bodies are still working them. Our bodies are still doing the doings. But we, the infinite being here, having the physical experience, is not the doer, is not doing the action, it's experiencing. We are experiencing these actions. And it's from that place that in the Tao Te Ching, a very famous quote, the master does nothing and yet everything is accomplished. Because the master is not out chasing after things, not out making things happen. The master allows the things to happen in their natural time, at their natural pace, in the natural space. And that's the card of this healing card. That's the meaning of this healing card. It's the card of wounds opening us to compassion, to kindness, and to resilience. Again, our authentic selves, opening ourselves to our authentic, kind selves. We are kind, we are loving. Our compassionate selves, we are authentically loving and care for the other. Because we know that the other is never separate from us. There is no actual separation. We are all one. And so naturally, our authentic selves are purely compassionate. It's the card of also resilience. Yeah, like I said, when you get knocked off the horse, you're able to get back up on it when you want to. That's, again, part of this healing card. And becoming the healer. Again, we're reminded that our authentic selves are the ones who become the healers. Not the healers of shoving medicine down somebody else's throats, but holding space for the other to find their health, to discover their authenticity. Holding space for the healing to occur. not in a non-action way, not forcing the healing to happen, but holding space for the healing to naturally happen. That is what this card is. And beside it, we have the Oak King, which in the Rider-Waite-Smith is the Hanged Man. And if you know me, you know that that is my favorite card in the deck. So, of course, for me, the Hanged Man always inspires me. The Hanged Man, pause, surrender. Surrendering to the moment and surrendering to ourselves, surrendering to our authenticity. Letting go of those personae as much as we possibly can. New perspectives. Because when we let go of the personae, when we surrender to our authenticity, we naturally will see everything in a completely different way. All of those shadows, those fears, those barriers that are blocking our vision will have melted, or at least most of them will have melted. And we will have a completely new experience, a new perception. And that's what the Hanged Man is to me. And it's a card of grace. Yeah? Surrendering, the grace of surrendering to what is true, the grace of surrendering to our authenticity. And those together are what inspire us. They're what inspire me. Surrendering to my authenticity and my ability to become the healer, my ability to hold space for healing, for growth, for expansion, for evolution. So, after I've changed, I've become the healer, that healing action inspires me. After I've given compassion, the more compassion, the courage I have of facing the things that perhaps frighten me, that I believe are standing in my way, the more courage I have and the more authentically I live, the more I am inspired by myself, by my authenticity. And that's where the natural well of our inspiration is, our authenticity. Let's take a look at the fourth and last question. The fourth question is perfect. What do I want to create? What do I want to create? It flows perfectly, doesn't it? First, we start with, how am I willing to change? What am I willing to become? 2, what can I give? As I have become, now, what can I give from that space? And as I'm giving, the next question, what inspires me to give more? As I give, I am inspired to give more. And as I am inspired, now we ask, what do I want to create? And the 2 cards, the first one is the Craftsman of Fire, the next one is the 4 of Chalices. Now the Craftsman of Fire from the Witch's Wisdom Tarot is equivalent to the Queen of Wands, believe it or not. He is the Queen. And the reason why is in the quatrain of the court cards, the Craftsman holds the place of the Queen for this deck. And the meaning for this card is different from the Queen of Wands. The Craftsman of Fire is the one, as you can see in the image, of working hard. Now this craftsman works hard to create. This craftsman hones their skills. This craftsman follows their calling. Now, we hone our skills best when we follow the calling from our authentic selves. If we're trying to do what other people tell us we want to do, and what they're telling us they want us to do is different from what our authentic selves want to do, that conflict makes our attempts to hone those skills that they say that we need much less effective. when we are following our own calling, everything we do is much more effective. Why? Because we are more open to the powerful force of intention. The current of intention will carry us much more quickly, much more effectively towards the direction of learning and honing and improving and evolving. It's the card of trust in our abilities, what we have now in addition to what we will gain. As we hone our skills, we want to trust what we can do now. Have you ever noticed that sometimes as you're trying to figure something out, as you're trying to learn something, you don't trust what you have already learned yet? You keep thinking, no, I haven't got it yet. For example, think of if you read with tarot or oracle cards, as you have progressed, especially at the beginning, you're learning, you know some stuff, you know that you haven't mastered the whole thing. And so you pull some cards, and when you pulled those cards, at the beginning, did you feel confident? Did you feel brave? Did you feel authentic in your interpretation of those cards? Or did you have some mistrust that, I don't really know what I'm doing yet, I've got more to learn, I don't know, I think I know what this means, but I'm not entirely sure. If you've had that experience with tarot, or perhaps something else, perhaps playing the piano, perhaps filling out a tax form, whatever. If you've had that experience of not trusting your ability, you know what this card is telling you. Yeah, not only do we hone our skills, we also trust the skills we already have. Or try our best to trust what we already know. Because there is never an end to the road of learning. That path of honing our skills, there is not a destination. That keeps going. And if we keep waiting until we've reached some destination of, yes, now I know how to do whatever, we're never going to do it. Or we're never going to do it well. However, if we trust what we are able to do right now, as we continue moving in the direction of honing our skills, we will do much better, and we will be living much more authentically. Because those feelings of insecurity, those fears are not coming from our authentic selves. This is the card of working in tandem with the sacred fire within. What does that mean? Yeah, do you ever feel your passion as an inner fire? In poems, in art, in literature, in music, our creative impulse is often described as a fire from within. So, working in tandem with that is part of this card. Yeah? Working in tandem with that inner fire to create, to do, to experience, to learn, to hone our skills. And then beside that, we have the Four of Chalices, which is an interesting card. It's a little bit of a challenging card in this spread. The Four of Cups, which is the Four of Cups. You probably already knew that. And in this card, we have a woman sitting in front of a table with 3 cups, and then outside of the window in her door, we see a second person holding another cup. And the Four of Chalices is usually the card of distractions, of apathy, of boredom, of dissatisfaction. And I don't think that's what we want to create. I don't think that's what this card is trying to tell us to do. I think this card is trying to tell us to look within those times when we feel that Four of Cups moment, that apathy, that dissatisfaction with who we are or what we're doing or where we are or what people are asking from us. Have you ever felt that feeling of dissatisfaction, of, I don't want to do that, I don't know, this isn't what I wanted, why am I here? Not in the most profound kind of nihilistic why am I here, but why am I here? Why I don't want to be here right now. Have you felt those moments? Those moments of resistance? The Four of Cups here, I think, is reminding us that we're going to have those times of resistance anyway. And yet, that feeling of dissatisfaction, that feeling of resistance is because we are focusing on what's already here and feeling a lack of something else. We're dissatisfied with what we have, which is already a problem of sorts, and feeling lack from that, even though there's something on its way to us right now. So there are two areas of misunderstanding that this card is showing us. One thing is our sense of dissatisfaction with what is. Now, the same old, same old. That is a sign of our own resistance to life. Our need for something new, for something different, right now, right here, is an indication of our resistance, our indication of being cut off from the powerful force of intention. And so, when we feel, and also the second thing is that what we want is not coming to us. It's not coming to us quickly enough, or it's just not coming to us, is also a misunderstanding, an untruth. And you can see in this card that there's something coming to this person inside the room staring at the Three Cups, being very dissatisfied. There's something coming. But the person at the table is living in an untruth. What this person has is not good enough, and the good thing is not coming. So, what do I want to create? I want to create my own inspiration. I want to create my own authentic self. And the way to do that is, especially at those times when we're having that Four of Cups moment, to look within. Look within that resistance that we are experiencing, knowing that the resistance is not truth. Look within to find our authentic selves, which feel the abundance of what we already have and know and see with the eyes of that far-seeing bird of prey, that see with the far-seeing eyes of the bird in flight, that other things are coming to us. And as we look within that resistance to notice the fire, to notice the flame, to notice the creative spark, flame, bonfire, nuclear power plant that is within ourselves. And work in tandem with that. Open ourselves to that. And to hone our skills, which will further our sense of inspiration, which will further our ability to change and to give. And this all comes from a discovery of, a releasing of, and our opening ourselves to our authentic selves. Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. I'm not sure if I'm relating it clearly enough for you, but it makes sense to me. And this spread, I think, teaches us very, very deeply. And I hope you've gotten something out of it yourself. And if you have, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear what things in this spread resonate with you. What things in this spread are you finding yourself resisting or rejecting? I'd love to hear that too. So, I'd love to hear that in the comments below. Leave a comment. Let's engage each other. Let's engage each other in conversation. And if you found this helpful, interesting, inspiring, a good way to spend your time, hit the like button for me. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. And also share this with somebody. If you know anyone who might get benefit from watching this, share it around. And again, comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, the decks will be shown in just a moment, so stay tuned for that. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.